All right, we're back on 50 for 50 here. This is the post heartbreak episode. And what we're also going to do on some of these episodes is the albums that we just, know a lot of information about. I thought it would be interesting to create like a little bit of like a supplemental podcast to the episode which you just heard, which is episode 1, the very first one that we've done. And if you haven't heard episode 1, I would go back and listen to episode 1 because I think it'll be more meaningful to listen to episode 1 before you listen to this. Because what we're going to do is we're going to nerd out a little bit with the New Edition catalog. And I'm calling this series Top 5. Now, I told Mike this off air that Sean Stockman from Boyz II Men has come out with a brand new podcast and is really sort of filling the void that Questlove Supreme left for me.
But Questlove is back.
Well, Questlove is back, except he's doing like more mainstream pop culture kind of interviews and not focused directly on music. And he didn't always do music. He did pop culture
Right.
stuff. But like for instance, and you'll tell when we recorded this if you follow Questlove. His first episode is Cameron Crowe, who's got a book
Right.
out. So that's not
Right.
really music, but it is pop culture, and I am definitely going to listen. So I'm in on everything Questlove, by the way. So that is not the problem. But music nerdiness, Sean Stockman has kind of picked up that baton for me.
Yeah, that's it. It's Sean's lane right now.
And so he does a segment at the end of his show called Top 5, and he asks a question. Now, I don't want to make it sound like I'm copying Sean because I'm not actually copying Sean. Who I am copying when I thought of the idea is actually an old Chris Rock movie.
And until you mentioned it, I had completely forgotten that Top 5 was never mind Chris Rock. It's not even about Chris Rock. I didn't remember that Top 5 was a movie.
Yeah. Yes. The basis of the movie wasn't about top 5 music acts, but interspersed into the movie were people talking about their top 5 favorite hip hop artists. So that's what I thought when I was coming up with this. But this is not just going to be top 5 lists. I'm going to ask Mike his thoughts on certain things, and we'll have top 5s when it is opportune. But in other instances, there won't be a top 5 because I have 3 questions for Mike. 2 of them will be top 5 related. One of them won't be. Okay.
I'm here for it.
So the first one. What are the top 5 best New Edition songs?
Boy, this is going to be rough, man. That's such a big catalog.
It is. Now this is specifically as a group. We'll do something outside of the New Edition group in a second, but this is specifically all of the albums in which the group of the New Edition was together.
Man. All right. So I'm gonna go with "If It Isn't Lovin', Can You Stand the Rain?"
Okay, that's
we were
from
just talking about
Heartbreak.
Heartbreak. Those are, probably my 2 favorite New Edition songs overall. I'm gonna throw a song in there that doesn't get mentioned a lot, but we talked about it during our Heartbreak discussion. "Helplessly in Love" is a song that I've always really, really liked, and it doesn't get enough love. But that is probably an all-timer for me. "Cool It Now," just because "Cool It Now" is iconic, man. I remember I was in 4th grade when that song came out, and everybody was singing and rapping along with that song. Like, it's just such a from a cultural standpoint, and it's a good song. And how many good songs sung by children can you still like vibe with today?
You know what that song, and I'm gonna interrupt you. Do you know what that song reminds me of? Which is,
what's that?
Obviously, New Edition is created under the idea of like, you guys can be a version of the Jackson 5. Like
New Edition of the Jackson 5.
Right. So that song is an 80s version of a Jackson 5 song because it has a rap in it.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it is kind of like the way I see it, and you're absolutely right, is that "Cool It Now" is kind of an update on Candy Girl.
Mm-hmm.
And Candy Girl was an update of ABC.
Right.
One of my earliest, like the melodies are actually like inverted or something like that. It's crazy.
Right.
I remember when I was a little kid, listening to the radio, and they would actually mix the two songs together. So Candy Girl and ABC would, you know, be Candy Girl,
Yeah.
ABC.
Yes, I remember
Um,
that. I remember that.
yeah. Um, so yeah, and Cool It Now is just kind of like an attempt to redo Candy Girl. But again, like who doesn't remember that rap?
Yeah.
Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike. So it is iconic. So that's four,
Okay, that's 4.
and I gotta pick one more. And there's like 20 songs I can put here, man. Um, man.
And it can't
Uh
be "I'm Still in Love with You," but in Spanish. Can't be that one.
oh, I forgot about that. Again,
I loved
R-
it. I was like
Dominicano Ricky Bell,
I was like,
baby.
"Oh my gosh, this is actually pretty cool." Hearing them
Yeah.
singing in Spanish.
Um, jeez. You know what? I'm gonna go with a little bit of love is all it
Yep.
takes. That's a
It's a
jam. I like
dope
that song.
song. You
Yeah,
know, that song, Once in a Lifetime Groove,
yeah,
Helplessly in Love, those are nice bridges between when they're really young to where they start growing into themselves. I always like that idea of like, okay, here's the songs that are kind of in the middle. Like
yeah,
Heartbreak is like when they're becoming adults, and this stuff is when they're young kids. And then here are these songs in the middle that kind of are this in between that I really think are cool.
yeah. And it's funny when I saw them, when I saw all six in Boston. They opened the show with "Once in a Lifetime
Oh
Groove."
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I'm gonna give now this isn't a top 5 song for me, but if I was kind of no, I haven't been to a club in how many years now? Gosh, because I was single in my later 20s, so I was married, and then in my late 20s, early 30s, I was single again, and so there was a time space of where, I'm hanging out with younger cousins or I'm hanging out with younger colleagues, so we may end up at a club, and I'm like, "Okay, like, I know what to do here, like, it's no biggie." And then you kinda get a little bit older and you're like, "Alright, I probably don't really need to be here anymore."
Too
So
old for the
there was
shit.
a time frame in which, I may have been at a lounge or a club or a bar where there was, like, music. I always thought "Hot Tonight" should have been a club banger,
That's a jam.
and
I love that song.
it didn't really have a chance.
I mean, at that point, New Edition was almost getting a little too old for the club.
But that song, it felt like that song was like, y'all kinda forgot about us."
Yeah,
And then it didn't do anything, and I was so disappointed. Well, it did a
it's a
little bit,
dope record.
but yeah, it's a
Yeah,
great song. So that is not in my top 5, but I just wanted to shout that out because on our episode, we didn't really talk too much about One Love because it was kind of a failure, and I'm gonna blame Puff Daddy for that one. I'm not gonna blame the
I'm
fellas.
happy to blame Sean Combs
Yeah.
for. I think New Edition blames Sean Combs for that too.
Yeah, they got out of their contract. That album was, like, on hold for a couple years. It was so frustrating as a New Edition fan waiting for that thing.
Yep.
Okay, so that is not in my top 5. I am going to go with, so the 2 songs that you mentioned have to be on there.
Can you stand the rain if it isn't love?
Yes. Mr. Telephone Man, I think, is my favorite New Edition song from their early albums.
Okay.
It is just so easy to sing along, and it brings me back to the 1980s when you had to dial the operator, when you had to, it's just like the way
so
that song is sung. I'm like, yep, I remember those days.
so here's some funny stuff. I went to karaoke with some friends last Saturday, and it was a celebration for two of my friends celebrating 40 years of friendship. So they met in 1985, and the overarching theme of karaoke was songs from 1985. So I sang Mr. Telephone Man. Now, this is a room full of white people, so nobody's jamming to Mr. Telephone Man the way brown folks would be jamming to Mr. Telephone
Right,
Man.
right.
But I'm like, this song is hard to sing for one person because you're essentially singing three people's
Yes,
parts
yes.
because Ricky, Bobby, and Ralph all sing on that
Right.
song. And the
I
other
could sing
thing
the
is,
Bobby parts easier than I can sing the Ricky and the Ralph parts.
right. The other thing is in 2025 with these lyrics, like if you put a 23-year-old in that karaoke spot listening to this song, they'd be like, "What the hell are you singing about? What is a telephone man?"
Uh,
Like, you know,
awesome.
but the
So
idea
awesome.
of your line going dead and having to dial 611
Yep.
and all this other stuff like is just completely foreign to anybody who is under the age of like 30.
Yes. Okay, so I have 3. I'm gonna add a little bit of love. That will give me 4. And then I have to add something from Home Again.
Okay.
And it is probably going to be I'm Still in Love with You because that is that song again, 1996. I am 20 years old ish. I am about, 3 years later I have a kid and am married, and then 4 years later I have a second kid. So I am in that space of like, I'm kind of not really thinking of marriage necessarily, but knowing that I want to have a family at a young age. And so I'm like thinking of like, and these the emotion on that song from Ralph, I think is just fantastic. And so I've always loved that song. So that would be my 5. Um, I wouldn't know how to rank it, but to give my top 5, that's my top 5.
All right. I'm not even trying to rank it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to change by the time this episode goes live anyway.
I'm sure. So when you think about 1990, when these guys branch off of and do their solo stuff, so we can even add the Don't Be Cruel version, and maybe even Bobby as well, the Bobby Brown album that followed the launch off of Bobby's career. So let's talk about the albums and how would you rank them post Heartbreak? So we have the Ralph Tresvant album, the Johnny Gill album, Biv DeVoe, and let's just throw Don't Be Cruel and Bobby in there as well. And what order would you put those in as far as your enjoyment is concerned, and you're just spinning them again and again and again?
Man, this is another hard question. I would probably first for me would probably be Johnny's album,
Okay.
just because it stands up to the test of time. During like, if you would ask me this question in 1990, it wouldn't be the same order. But in 2025, as someone who's a little bit more mature, um, Johnny's album strikes me as like the first one I would play. And I actually played that album almost all the way through fairly recently in the last
Mhm.
couple of weeks. So Johnny would be number one. Um, I might go with Ralph second. Don't Be Cruel third. Actually, Ralph second. The Bobby album third. Don't Be Cruel fourth, and then Poison last.
Your last is my first, my friend.
Really,
I
Poison.
I love that
It,
album.
it
Every
sounds so
song. Now
dated.
now I'm not saying that these songs are particularly the greatest songs I've ever heard, but from beginning to end, like how those songs are placed, like what my ears expect when I put that album on, like how energetic I get. Like I can go to the gym and throw that album on and just be pumped through my entire workout. And here's another thing. I mentioned the club just a second ago. There are 2 songs to me in those days of me going to the club or going to music and hanging with people. There are 2 songs that I've seen that get the crowd hyped that are not West Coast hip hop, right? That's not Tupac, that's not Too Short or whatever. These
Mm.
2 songs that will get the place jumping just by, like, the initial beat or the initial sound that comes out. One of those is "Hypnotize" by Notorious B.I.G., and the second one is "Poison." Yeah, you got the Biggie shirt on, and we're gonna do a Biggie album at some point in the future, so I hope you wear that again. But "Poison" is the song that if you have a dead party and you throw that thing on, then people are like, "Okay, now we're ready." And
Imma agree with you there.
and I get it, like, from a actual musicianship standpoint, like, that album is heavily based on the production styles and the producers that they chose to help them with the album. It is less about those 3 guys as a unit and what they brought to the table, and it is more about their fantastic choices, of what they did, but and look, the lyrics as well,
Some questionable
not
stuff.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Do I don't know if I've listened to "Do Me." That might be a little bit of a skip these
That's
days
rough.
for me,
Yeah.
but I also remember which of those 3 albums that we're talking about, or the 5, I know which one resonated the most in real time with my friend circle. Ralph and Johnny, a little bit older. BBD was right in the zone for
Oh,
all of
yeah.
us at that point, and we're 14 years old or whatever. That is the album that people love. So I'm going Poison. Number 2, I'm going with Bobby because that was another BMG album for me that I just endlessly played. And I may go out on a limb and say Good Enough is my favorite Bobby Brown song of all time.
Wow. I mean, Bobby is people sleep on that record. The the only problem with Bobby is that it's too long. Like, you cut, like, the last 4 songs off the record, it's a really, really good album.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. There are some interesting choices as well because he's got Whitney on it, and at that point, you have to have Whitney on it, right? Like that's your lady. She is one of the biggest stars in all of music. Um, w- what do you think about humping around in 2025?
You know, I listened to that song 3 or 4 days ago, and I wasn't crazy about it then. I thought it was okay. Wasn't the song for Bobby to come back in the door with. Um, but, it's fine.
It's a time and place response, though, right?
Right. Well, I yes.
It is. Here's his reputation, and he's basically telling you that he's not that dude.
Right.
So I guess it's more of a time and place record, but I think Good Enough shows off a certain tenderness that almost don't really see with him and it's a sign of like a little bit of growth as well.
Yeah, it's maturity. I mean, his singing voice is more mature, but that song also has like a very like a old school, then even it had like an old school vibe to it.
Okay, so I'm going Bobby 2, and I will go. The next 3 are as far as the one that I listened to the most, I listened to the Don't Be Cruel album more than the other 2, but I listened to Ralph Sensitivity, the Ralph Tresvant album because of Sensitivity, probably next, and then Johnny was just I think it was because I always found him to be uh what is the term? I don't even know what the term is, but I didn't set Johnny seemed a little square to me when I was growing up. And he seemed a little bit older than those. It's like, how much older is he than everybody else?
I think like a year or two.
Okay, so it's not even that far, but again, we have the maturity, his voice is mature. I would put, if I'm being honest, I would put the Johnny Gill album last just because of my relationship to it. Now, if I listened to some of it recently, and it ages very well, by the way.
Yeah.
It ages really well. So I may change that as well, like you said, if as the time goes by. But I'll go Poison, Bobby, Don't Be Cruel, Ralph, and then Johnny.
So your list is
Inverted.
almost mine in
Yeah,
reverse. Yeah.
inverted. Okay.
And to be fair, they're all, I think, to this day, they're all great records.
I would listen to any of them at the drop of a hat. So this is not one of them is bad. They're not bad at
Right.
all. They're all good. Okay. Now here's the last one. Top 5 best songs by all of the members, but you cannot pick new edition albums. So that means LSG is on the table.
Oh,
That
oh,
that means the song that we discussed in the last episode on Johnny's album with all those dudes together, that is on the table. That also means the soundtrack albums are on the table, and their solo stuff as well.
right. Okay. My.
Okay.
Just because that's an all timer. My, and Poison definitely need to have those two on there. I'm gonna show you something, and this is something that not a lot of people own, but I do to show you how much of a fan I am.
Hootie Mac,
I have BBD's Hootie Mac on vinyl.
that's amazing.
Yes.
Okay,
Uh,
can we just take as an aside, you brought it up, so I actually wanted to talk about this for a second. I just said Poison was my favorite album of the non-new edition albums. I've never been more disappointed in my life, maybe, with their follow-up, and here's why. The first song that we thought was gonna be the single for the second album gets completely shelved for sample reasons, I think.
I don't know what the Gangster was dope. That's a great record.
I mean,
I had that cassette single.
it's very similar to what was on Poison, so it's not
Yeah.
too much of a change up, but that they were even on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air doing
Yeah.
that song, and
Yep.
then when the album drops and that song is not on the album, I thought I'd, like, gotten, like, a screwed up copy of it or something. I was like, "What happened? Like, where is it?" Like, that and, we talked about the internet not being around. That was a giant mystery to me, and one in which I was always looking for the answer, which is why this song never came out.
So, well, somebody needs to clarify that up. Clarify that up. Someone needs to clear that up for us. So, if anybody knows the real deal about why Gangsta is not on the Hootie Mac album, please let us know. Because I thought Gangsta was a banger,
Yep.
and then they end up coming out with this whole album about smoking weed.
Yeah.
Um,
Um
like 6 months after the Chronic.
Mike Bivins talking about he palms the basketball like the booty, and
Right? Yeah,
you
yeah,
know what?
yeah, yeah.
Something in Your Eyes is a good song.
And that's where I was leading to. Something in Your Eyes, which was, I think, the second single from Hootie Mac, written by Babyface, um, is one of those, like, this is the summer of '93. So there's like Knocking the Boots by H Town, I Want to Get Freaky with You by Silk, and I Want to Go Downtown by SWV, and all these records that are just like horny, horny ass records. And I'm 17 years old. So I'm at like peak horny level. And Something in Your Eyes is like straight up filthy. Like that song is just about like sex. Ricky Bell sings the shit out of it.
Yes.
Like it is a great song. Ended up being really the only hit from the album. Um, but uh, but yeah, that's my number three. Um, I got to throw a Bobby song in there, and I'm gonna actually go with "Don't Be Cruel." Because I think like the singing verse followed by the rap verse followed by like that was super novel at the time. Um, and you know, I hope that Bobby gets the appropriate level of credit he deserves for really kind of like bridging the gap between hip hop and R&B,
Mhm.
kind of being ahead. And New Edition, Candy Girl was like the first big R&B hit that had rapping in it. So New Edition was super ahead of the curve when it came to like merging hip hop and R&B. So Don't Be Cruel would be my number four. And for my number five, again, when you get to the fifth one, there's always like your brain is going between like
It's
six
really
million
you have
different
like
songs.
yeah, you have like 20 of them tied for 5th, and you gotta
Yeah.
like pick one.
Um, you know what? And I'm gonna say this because I was just listening to it last night. I Want to Rock with You.
Oh, okay.
The
The
remix
Quiet
version in the
Storm
video,
version?
the Quiet Storm version, is another like great song. And you talked earlier about like once in a lifetime groove and how there are songs that kind of bridge the gap
Yeah.
between like young person songs and like mature person songs,
Yeah.
I feel like Tenderoni and Rock With You did a really good job of being like they could appeal to young
Yep.
people, but they still had like an edge.
All right. So my Bobby song, I mentioned Good Enough. Um,
Mm,
I go back and forth between Good Enough and Every Little Step as far as my favorite Bobby song. Since I said Good Enough already, I'll put Every Little Step on that list. Obviously,
the video pulls that over the top for me.
yeah. What about
Shout out Rosie
what
Perez.
about the Mike Tyson remix video?
The Mike Tyson and Wayne Brady version. That is hilarious.
Okay, so I'll go Every Little Step. Of course, I'm gonna go Poison. Um, I'm gonna pick a different bo- uh BBD slow jam though. Um, that the slow jam that I'm gonna pick is When Will I See You Smile Again? Now there's some corn in that song, right? Like
Yeah,
and the dudes in the tuxedos or whatever in the video, they are trying to kind of recreate "Can You Stand the Rain" on their own, is what I always took it as. But I, again, when it comes to the slow jam mixtapes, like that is one of those songs for me. So I got three. I'm not going to take anything from Ralph's album. I will take the New Edition song that I mentioned from Johnny's album. This one's for me and you.
yeah.
And then for my fifth, I'm leaning heavy Biv DeVoe here, but it's specifically for the Word to the Mother remix. Because again, that was just special for
Yeah,
me seeing that video on the CMC California Music Channel and like seeing all those dudes, and then DeVoe's rapping and he has the place cards of the songs
all the
that they're
different song titles.
referencing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then,
yeah.
like you said, Bobby and Ralph's rap, which is great in that song. So those are my five.
I'm not mad at that.
Okay. So we went through the entire album. We went through what that album meant to us and this little supplemental, shorter episode about the top five list. That is going to end our journey with Heartbreak. And I'm kind of sad because I just love everything about that album.
We
And
also didn't talk about "You're Not My Kind of Girl."
true. I don't know why. I don't know why she just wasn't Ralph's type, man. And because I think Biv and DeVoe are like, he's bugging. What's going on with this
Right.
dude?
If you are the type of girl that a man would be proud to call his own, why is she then not the right type of girl for you?
I saw something about, I think Ralph may have actually been trying to explain the genesis of the lyrics, and I think he said it was like a real life sin, because Jam and Lewis, historically, like this is how they put their stuff together. They would hang out with the people to get their thoughts, and that's how Control becomes Control, because they learn a
Right.
little bit about what Janet's trauma is and some of the things that she likes and dislikes. And they did the same thing with these guys. They were hanging out with them, and so it's as far as Ralph said, this was a little bit autobiographical, where there was some lady friend who was just dope and just was not the one for him for some reason. And he was apologizing for it.
He's the type of guy, Mr. SENSITTIVITY.
Okay, but is it a little bit of a backhanded compliment in a sense?
I thought that even then,
Yeah.
it was like that's kind of like a diss.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you cool? That's what you say to somebody that you're trying to give like the brush off.
Yeah. You it's
Like,
it's
oh,
it's
you're
not it's
perfect, you're
not
beautiful.
it's not
It's not
you,
you.
it's me.
It's not you. It's me.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Again, if you want to be part of the Discord, gg@bspnmedia.com. Mike, we are done with the entire first album, and we'll be moving on to our
Yay!
second album when you next hear us. So, again, for Mike, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Lady, y'all.